All right, you guys, here we go. So, imposter syndrome. Notice here I have syndrome marked out. I like to call it the imposter experience, okay? It's not a syndrome, it's a human experience. And the fact that we are taught to believe and that we go around thinking that this idea of self doubt and this imposter feeling is a syndrome, giving it the idea that something's wrong with us, is the exact thing that's blocking our blessing. Because the reality is it's not a syndrome, there's nothing wrong, it's genuinely a human experience. I like to call it a rites of passage, but we'll get to that later. Okay, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm going to do a quick introduction. Hello, I am Goddess Adina. I am a entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade, and my specialty is helping other entrepreneurs with mindset development, with system building, with their marketing and their branding. And I have spent the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years building a brand where I am known for my confidence and my authenticity. But here is my well kept secret that a lot of people don't know if you don't know me very well. Despite the fact that I am very well known for my confidence and my authenticity today, I spent years, you guys, like literal years, dealing with debilitating insecurity. Like, I questioned every single step that I made. I was a certified people pleaser. Anything anyone wanted from me, I was doing it because I was always looking for approval. I was always looking for validation. I was always looking for someone to tell me that I was doing the right thing or that it was good enough. And even when they did so, it didn't really mean anything because I would think that they were lying because my insecurities went so deep, and the imposter syndrome, because of that, went so deep as well. And as an entrepreneur, for the first few years of my journey, that meant I was always showing up in a way that was just not conducive, okay? I was always overcompensating. So I was constantly overworking to prove my worth. I was constantly finding myself, I remember years ago, I would wake up at like 2 a.m. answering phone calls for clients that, the contract was already over and I'm still doing work, but I felt the need to overcompensate to prove that I was valuable enough to have gotten the service or given the service in the first place. I was constantly underselling and charging below my value, right? Struggling with how much I knew it was worth and actually stating that price to a client or a customer, because my imposter syndrome and my insecurities would pop up, and I was constantly burnt out because of those two things. I was overworking and underpaying myself, which partially came from, corporate backings. But as an entrepreneur, I was constantly finding myself on the edge of, can I really do this? And do I have the strength and the energy inside me to do this? Because I'm constantly burning out the way I'm trying to do it. And this is the shift that had to happen to take me out of overworked and underpaid to like literally loving what I do, being able to work at a pace that is like just having a work-life balance that doesn't mean that my finances are taking a hit as well. And what I had to realize was that the struggle that I was facing and the imposter syndrome that I was facing wasn't about my offer. It wasn't because I needed to have a better product or a better service. It wasn't about the content that I was creating or the marketing or the sales calls. It wasn't even about the systems that I had in my business. And those are all the things that I was focusing on, right? I was putting all of my energy into fixing my business, growing my business, everything about my business, until I realized that it wasn't about my business. It didn't matter how much I did in my business. It was about my mindset. And that shift, you can almost kind of see it in these pictures, from this kind of overworked to working on myself to finding joy again in my entrepreneurship journey. Because at the end of the day, I started this for freedom, like I'm sure all of you did. And because of imposter syndrome, I found myself taking my entrepreneurship dreams and trying to stuff them into this like corporate box or this entrepreneur box of success that people, or that I saw out in the world. If this resonates with you, definitely drop a 1 or in the chat so everyone else knows that, we're here together, we're in the same space. Do you find yourself constantly questioning your purpose or your value, your pricing, whether or not your content is good enough, if you deserve your accomplishments. And then this one is a big one. If you constantly find yourself or questioning, why are you struggling with consistency? So beautiful. Thank you guys for showing up in the chat and letting people know that we are in the same room. We are in the same place and that this is a safe room. So right here, right now, before I go any further, I want everyone to stop. If you are in a safe place to close your eyes, please do so. If there are like children jumping around or like driving a vehicle, don't do that, obviously. But if you can, just take a second to close your eyes. And I want you to inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. And one more time, inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Right here, right now, the only thing that matters is this conversation and this present moment. So take the things that resonate with you, leave the things that don't. Please be interactive with the chat in the chat. This is a safe space, and the best way for you to grow is to be vulnerable. And I'm excited that we have a safe space for all of us to do that together. So if you are in this room, if you dropped a 1 in the chat, or maybe you didn't drop a 1 in the chat, but you are feeling the same way, I want you to take a moment to celebrate yourself. And I know that that sounds absolutely ass backwards, excuse my language, but here's the reason why. Experiencing self-doubt is a rite of passage. It is not a sign of inability, okay? Overcoming it, this training is going to be a lot less about how to remove the self-doubt and just, chest out, be confident, and more about how to move and act in spite of having those thoughts, in spite of questioning yourself. Because there's a lot of perspective shifts that we're going to talk about today, but one of the major ones is understanding that having self-doubt is not a sign of inability. It's not a sign of your lack of training, wisdom, whatever. It's a sign of your drive towards excellence. It's a sign that you were always looking for your ability and your space to be the best of yourself, right? And that's a beautiful thing. So I want you to take a moment, pat yourself on the back, round of applause, twerk it out, whatever it is you do to celebrate yourself. Take a moment to celebrate yourself, because the fact that you have experienced this and you are still standing here today, you are walking through a rites of passage that many people stop at. Some people experience that, that self-doubt, that debilitation, and that's it. Bada boom, bada bing. So, important perspective shift. And the first one I want to offer to you. This is a quote that I heard that absolutely was like, duh. We feel like imposters not because of the flaws in ourselves, but our inability to see flaws in others. And social media, you guys, has made that so much more of a thing than ever before. We all know that 99% of social media is a highlight reel, right? But we all scroll through it on autopilot every day thinking that we're seeing 100% of somebody's lives and comparing our mess to their highlight reel, right? But we have to realize that second guessing, that questioning, that imposter syndrome is not about, oh, you're not good enough. It's about, I'm not seeing that the person that I'm comparing myself to is probably also questioning themselves, or they also have dishes in the sink, or they also have spent the last 3 years on the same project, or they also, like, they're experiencing the same things as you. So when we come face to face with self-doubt and imposter syndrome, it's telling us less about who we are and where we are right now, and telling us more about our perspective of ourselves, okay? Not every feeling or thought that we have is true just because it comes from our own brain. Our thoughts and our feelings lie to us all the time, okay? And imposter syndrome is an amazing example of that. So what this affects and why this matters in your business, okay? Because I have one thing that I see often is people spending entirely too much time and all of their energy, like I just said, I used to, working on their business and not enough energy working on their mindset. And they miss the correlation and where that affects, okay? So it affects your content creation, right? When you struggle with self-doubt, you struggle with imposter syndrome, and you're not seeing yourself in the true light that you're supposed to, or allowing yourself to see yourself as where you're going, It affects your content creation. You're now inconsistent with the way that you show up. You're now questioning the value that you bring. You're now less confident when you show up on camera. This affects your sales conversations with your pricing. It affects how you pitch in conversations and whether or not people are going to convert, because at the end of the day, sales is an energy exchange. So how you feel about your offer, how you feel about the content that you're putting out is going to affect how that person responds to you. I have literally seen situations energetically, no matter, where you feel about manifestation, law of attraction, religion, whatever it is, we know that we are energetic beings and energy is transferable, right? I have literally seen spaces where people want to buy, want to purchase, they're ready to pull out a card, but because the person that is pitching them or selling them is so unsure and so shocked and taken aback by that, they end up losing the sale. And it all goes back to not having a toolkit for that imposter experience. This affects your income generation, your team building, and it has a huge effect on your work-life balance as well. So, before we go any further, I want to talk to you a little bit about the human brain before I get into, how we overcome imposter syndrome and what to do with it. I want you to understand something. So I've studied, the human brain, how the mind works, and just the way humans think and relate to each other my entire life. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology, and there are two things that I understand very well about the brain. One, it is a muscle, okay? It is the most intricate and well-working muscle in the existence of this universe. And the second thing that I understand is that your brain values patterns over truth. Okay? So what that means is your brain has decided that whatever pattern that you lived through, whether it was as a child or something in teenager or in your business, whatever pattern that you've created, whether it's conscious or subconscious, to your brain, that's safe. I repeat that. That's what I do. That's the muscle that I create over and over and over again, right? So when it comes to things like imposter syndrome and self-doubt or the imposter experience, I want to drive and drill into your head that this is not a issue. This is not a something is wrong with you. This is literally unconsciously, before you were even aware of it, your brain, this muscle got trained to exercise itself in a certain way, and you were just now coming aware of, oh, that's not the best way for it to exercise. Let me change it. And that change is a process. Okay? So that's the first thing. This is a practice. This is an ongoing, lifelong experience. There are no, quick fixes, and there are ways to be able to feel good through the process, but I don't want anyone to think that, oh, once I get this and this perspective shift, or once I do this, then it's going to click. And the reason is because when you think that way and then it doesn't happen, or you have a moment of relapse, or you have a moment of self-doubt when you've been going through this confident streak, it crushes you instead of you realizing that it's just part of the journey. Okay, this is a process. You are literally retraining a muscle that's been doing the same thing for a very long time. I hired a team member in my fitness business, and it cost me thousands of dollars from the space of imposter syndrome. I'm telling you guys, I'm glad you guys are here with me. Okay, all right. That was really dramatic. I don't know why I did that. Saying goodbye to the imposter experience. Okay, there are two things that I have for this that have helped me tremendously in the past 2 years. Say goodbye to the imposter experience. Now, keep in mind that I'm saying say goodbye to the imposter experience. And when I say experience, I mean the actions that come with moving from the imposter side of you. I'm not saying that we're saying goodbye to self-doubt. I'm not saying that we're saying goodbye to feeling like imposter. I'm saying we're saying goodbye to the actions and the experience that come with that when you're unaware of it. And there's two ways that we do that: with a perspective shift, which we've already started doing and we're going to continue to do throughout this training, and then stocking your emotional toolkit, which I'm super excited about. All right, so let's get into the perspective shifts that are really, really important. Number one, and I feel like I've been driving this home since the beginning, but it's normal, okay? It's 110% normal. That is the first thing that you have to accept, because that's what's going to allow you to be gentle with yourself, and that's what's going to allow you to get past that emotional reaction. A lot of us, when we experience self-doubt, there's this immediate emotional reaction that's like, you make impulsive decisions that cost you thousands of dollars. You don't act, and you get caught in preparation, or what is it called, analysis paralysis, and you hide your procrastination in preparation, or like it creates all of these emotional reactions because we think that something's wrong, and we have these knee-jerk reactions trying to fix it. And when we stop and we allow it to be a normal part of the process, we can move past that emotional reaction and take logical, actionable steps based on truth, not the pattern that our brain has decided is safe. Okay? Now, perspective shift number two. Doing new things, okay? Being an entrepreneur, building a business, maybe becoming, the first entrepreneur in your family, the first millionaire, the first of anything, or maybe you're building something you've never seen before, or maybe you've seen it before, but it's never been done the way that you're doing it. When you're creating something new, that means you're becoming a new person, all right? I don't know if any of you guys know who Robert Kiyosaki was. I don't know how to say his last name, but he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He has a quote that says, entrepreneurship is not about what you do, it's about who you become. Okay? So part of imposter syndrome, or having self-doubt, is the reality that you are not yet who you're becoming. So you're going to feel like an imposter as you're taking these action steps as this person that you aren't yet. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that you're incapable. It doesn't mean that you don't belong there. It means that you are learning, you are becoming, right? Just like when babies walk, okay? Just because they know inherently, I'm supposed to walk. I can stand up, I can walk. Everyone around me is walking, and I'm going to come back to representation in a second. I know that that's my future, but right now I'm not walking, right? And they stand up and they try and they fall. They stand up and they try and they fall. Nobody looks at a baby and is like, you fall, you're never going to walk. Yet every single day, we look at ourselves like, oh, you didn't create the content, you're never going to do it. Oh, you didn't launch your business, you're never going to do it. Oh, you didn't launch your ads, you're never going to do it. Oh, your ads have been running for 24 hours and nothing happened. It's not going to happen for you. It doesn't make sense, right? Because we're not that different. A baby learning to walk and us learning to do something new are not different things, yet we have a very different reaction to it. So I want this perspective shift to be about, as I am becoming who it is I see myself as, it's okay if I feel like an imposter, because I'm not her yet. I'm not him yet. And honestly, life is a moving finish line. So once I become him, there's going to be a bigger and a better part of me that I want to go to next. So being comfortable, there's some space in adulthood. I don't know if it's like we graduate high school, college, or we get into a work, wherever it is that we decide, oh, we're adults now, we're no longer learning. And so the idea of making mistakes and trying new things becomes this, oh, you're failing, you should be better. That doesn't make any sense. Just a couple hundred years ago, we used to be in school as humans until we were 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. We never stop learning, and especially as an entrepreneur, you can never stop learning. So the sooner you become comfortable with the process of learning and allowing yourself to learn new things, one of my affirmations is, I can learn new things. I don't have to be good at it right now. I can learn new things. And I can allow myself to learn new things out loud if I want to, right? So being comfortable with imposter syndrome, because becoming a new person means new things. Love that book. Yes, you are dropping gems. Third perspective shift that I absolutely love when it comes to having self-doubt and imposter syndrome is, instead of having that knee-jerk emotional reaction of trying to fix it, pause. Literally, so you got to start training yourself to be aware of those thoughts and notice what they are, whether they happen while you're scrolling through Instagram and you're like, oh man, like I should have done this. Pause, okay? And recognize that this self-doubt is a strive for excellence. This means that there's greatness in me that I'm still pulling out, and it's okay that it's a process. Because number one, life is long and we have nothing but time. And what better way to spend it than driving for excellence and continuously finding the best of myself? So when you come to those places of self-doubt, instead of allowing them to be this, oh, there's something wrong with you, allow it to be this representation of, I have an innate drive for excellence inside of me. I have an innate drive to bring value and to bring impact to people. That's a beautiful representation of how big and bold your heart is. So that self-doubt is not a representation of your inability. It's a representation of how large the energy of yourself that you're walking into really is. All right. So those are the 3 perspective shifts I want you guys to have. Number 1, it's normal. Chill out. Even the most confident person that you're looking at that you think has it all together, they are experiencing doubt probably in the moments that you're speaking to them, right? I've had so many experiences in the last couple of years of meeting people that I met online, right? That I would look at them, they had it all together. They were making more money than me. They were posting online more than me. They were more confident in everything was better than me. And then I would meet them and have these face-to-face conversations and see the behind the scenes of everything. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. We aren't that different. And there were a few times where it was like, I actually have lost a little bit of like my glamour for you. Okay. So when it comes to that comparison, that imposter syndrome experience, that self-doubt, understanding that it's normal and taking a second to be logical about it. And number 1, do you have enough information to compare yourself to this person? Because if you don't have a behind the scenes of their life, you do not have enough information, I guarantee you. And then number 2, if you do have enough information to compare yourself to this person, give a fair comparison. Don't just decide, oh, they look like okay, wait a minute. So, okay, yeah, they did just post that on Instagram, but I remember last week we were talking about this, or I saw this, or I went to their house and we were having this experience. And if you can't find those things and you are close to this person, like you have access to them, my challenge to you is anybody that intimidates you or that you find yourself jealous of that you can access, reach out to them. Have a conversation with them about how they do what they do and see if you can learn from them. And watch that intimidation, that confidence, that jealousy wash away as they share with you how they did what they did. And you're like, oh, I can do that. We're not that different. Okay. And then number 2, creating new things means becoming a new person. So you're going to feel like an imposter sometimes because you are not yet who you're becoming. It's okay. And allowing it to be this innate drive of excellence that you have, not this sign of an inability. So let's debunk a few myths. That part, the folks that we are comparing ourselves to have their struggles too that they don't post. Exactly. That's why I canceled my life be lifing, okay? And that's one of the major things that I think is huge in allowing your mindset to be at the forefront of your business, because then you can build systems and put the things in place. Just like you guys have ads running, you don't have to post content all the time. So when life does life, things can still move like they need to move. And that's why having your mindset in the forefront is also practically super important to your business. Okay, guys, let's debunk some myths when it comes to your perspective. I needed this so much. I'm so happy. All right. Ooh, all right. So I'm probably going to like throw some shade to people unintentionally with this, and not people in here, but people that you probably see online. Okay. Confidence does not equal competence. I need you to screenshot this, make it a backdrop somewhere. Confidence does not equal competence. All right. A lot of us, especially today, we have a habit, and guilty, of scrolling through social media, going online, going on the internet, looking for people in our niche as inspiration, right? And then we end up, almost analysis paralyzing ourselves into this stuck position, because now we're looking, oh, they're so confident. They have this, they have that, they have the other. Okay, listen, I'm gonna let you know right now, if you actually signed up for some of the people that you follow if you actually signed up for their stuff, or if you actually got in the back scenes of, you'd realize that confidence doesn't equal competence, okay? And I'm going to leave it at that so that it doesn't get too, shady or rude, but do not assume that because someone is confident that they are competent, all right? My girlfriend and I were driving down the street the other day, and it was a whole brick and mortar business. Title said, "Why a lawyer?" That was it. No context. Why a lawyer? If that person is there, what kind of competence could come out of that, right? But they were confident enough to put it up there, and their lights are on, bills are paid, so people are still going in and out for whatever business it is that could possibly be. But confidence is not equal competence. That's point blank, period. It never has, never will. Some of the most confident people, some of the millionaires that I have had conversations with, some of the CEO boardrooms that I have been in, it was not all competence that got them there. Here's the thing, guys. In the world that we live in the society that we live in today, the reality is confidence and your ability to stand 10 toes down on whatever it is that you believe or whoever you are, and to know that it is that you belong in a room, that's what drives your financial success. That's what drives your entrepreneur. That's what gets you in rooms, on stages, making whatever sales it is that you want to sell, right? But my feeling is that you're here for a reason, and it's our commitment to having competence to back that confidence that will change this society and this world that we're living in. So yes, we have to have that confidence, and that's why we're having this mindset training. But also understand that self-doubt, that imposter experience, that drive to make sure that it's competent and valuable, that matters. And once we marry those two, baby, done. But first and foremost, even though for you, your confidence will be backed with competence, do not look out into the world and assume that confidence equals competence. All right, debunk, that was nice. Debunk number 2, your capacity equals your worth, all right? So when I say your capacity equals your worth, what I see a lot of times in entrepreneurs, and what I saw in myself, is we tend to believe that however many hours I can work, however much I can grind out, that is what defines my worth and my value. I remember a couple of years ago, I spent probably a good 2-year period where I was working 60 to 80 hours a week and making myself sick every other month, because I thought that my capacity to give and to stay up and to grind and to do all this was my worth and my ticket to success. So I want you to understand that your capacity, your ability, the amount of energy you have, for example, having to cancel your webinar tonight, not having the capacity to do that has nothing to do with your worth. Not having the capacity to show up on social media has nothing to do with your worth, or how valuable your offer is, or how successful you'll be as a business. Your capacity tells you more about the way that you need to structure your business. It tells you nothing about what you're worth. It tells you about, okay, this is where my price needs to be, because this is the capacity of the people that I can handle, and this is the hours that I work the best, because I am building a business that suits me. I am not building a box that I need to fit myself in because that's what the world told me to build, right? So I need you to understand that your capacity does not equal your worth. Your capacity tells you nothing more than the way in which you need to structure your life and your business to operate as your best self. Your worth is a whole different conversation for a whole different training, and the value behind your offer comes back to your competence, okay? And then, this is a big one. Busy equals productive, right? I feel like this isn't a huge one here, because if you're here and you're running ads, we're on automation and time freedom and things like that. But I also know that breaking into that time freedom and having that time and space can be scary for those of us that are reforming workaholics, right? So allowing yourself to understand that as you create this time freedom, as you create this space, being busy does not mean you're being productive. Being productive means you're producing whatever it is that you're producing for your business, whatever that means, whether you're producing content, you're producing sales, you're producing new systems. And if that takes you an hour, great. If that takes you 8 hours, great. But you do not need to fill your time to be busy to make yourself productive or to validate your business or to validate your value or to validate your offer, right? Busy does not equal productive. Busy just means that you have poor time management, to be very honest with you. Stay away from busy people. Busy people do not know how to manage their time, and productive people do. That's a very big difference. Something that I got from Ed Milet is he is a motivational speaker and author, if you don't know who he is, and he did a lot of work with like high performing athletes, so like professional athletes from baseball, basketball, different things like that. And something that he said was the difference between those that one of the differences between those that went pro and those that didn't was they knew their pulse. Professional athletes know how long they can give 100%, and at the exact moment they need to stop to rest and reset because they refuse to give less than 100%. And what busy people do is give like 60%, 100% of the time. And what high performing, successful, and productive people do is give 100%, I don't know, 50% of the time, 80% of that, whatever your capacity is, but you give 100% as long as you can give 100%, and then you rest and reset because you know that your 100% is better than giving 50% just to keep yourself busy when you know it's time to rest and reset. So busy does not equal productive. Rest is not earned. Rest is productive. It is a conducive part of your success journey. First and foremost, I'm going to explain what an emotional toolkit is. If you're like, duh, obviously, cool, just rock with me for a second. But if you don't, it's totally fine. There's a lot of people that are like, emotional toolkit, like emotions, what? I don't even deal with that. Like if I need to cry, I go sit in the corner and then we wipe it off, thug it out, and keep it going. So what an emotional toolkit is it's a collection of habits, or practices. It can even be practices or things that you do, but it's a collection of habits created that protect you from your triggers, protect you from self-sabotage, and from allowing yourself to operate on autopilot, leading you somewhere that you don't want to go. All right. So an emotional toolkit is a collection of habits that protects you from yourself, basically, and from the autopilot conditioned part of yourself. All right. Because I don't want people to think that like protect you from yourself, there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's never anything wrong with you. You literally just have habits or conditions that you may not have been aware of that got, deep ingrained, and you got to do some, I don't know what the opposite of ingrained is, but you got to dig them out a little bit or regrain them with something new. All right, I talked about this a little bit earlier. Your emotional toolkit is extremely important. Why? Because business, especially as an entrepreneur, I would argue even in the corporate world, to be honest, but especially as an entrepreneur, small business owner, big business owner, wherever, it is 90% mindset and 10% strategy, okay? If you flip this in any type of way, all right, if it's 60% strategy and 40% mindset, you are always going to struggle. All right. Intention is always going to beat action. If you do not have the intention, the correct intention behind the action that you're taking, the action will always, always, always either be fruitless or something that you don't want. All right. That's one of my biggest issues with a lot of the self-proclaimed like coaches, guides, and teachers out there is they're giving you actions and telling you to follow steps, but they're not talking to you about the mindset or the intention that they had when they were taking those actions so that you can have the same one as well. Right? I can tell you all day to follow these steps. Here's how I stay consistent. Here's how I manage my time. Here's how I do this. But if I don't give you the mindset and the intention as to why you're doing those things and the mindset you need in doing them, you're going to do all of that and then come back to me and be like, girl, that didn't work. Like, what did I just do that for? Right? So making sure that you have that intention behind anything that you're putting action into, it is 90% mindset, 10% strategy. Any strategy that you put into your business always needs to come back to your mindset, your self-care, your work-life balance, the systems that you need to be the best part of yourself. Because as an entrepreneur, you're the heart of your business, right? If you go down, what are we doing? Right? And it's not just about you and your business, your family, and your income. It's also about the impact and the people out there that you have, whether, I don't care if it's a product or a service, there's some sort of impact that you have to give to this community, to this society, to this economy that we're going to miss out on if you don't have your mindset, your self-care, you protected within the business that you're creating. And side caveat, that's also why the customer is not always right. If the customer is threatening your mindset, your self-care, or your well-being, nix it. All right. There's another customer for you. That's not your person, that is someone else's person. Okay. So first thing in your emotional toolkit, and this might seem like it doesn't fit or belong, but I promise you it does. Just stick with me, okay? The first thing in your emotional toolkit that is super important is your imagination is key, all right? Remember in the perspective shifts when it came to the imposter experience and self-doubt, we had to accept that we're creating something new, right? And creating something new or that you don't see in front of you takes imagination. It takes you being able to see something that's not right in front of you. So something about adulthood, I don't know if it's the the reoccurring bills that just keep showing up on a regular basis, but something about adulthood tends to take that childlike anything is possible imagination away from us. And that, whether you realize it or not, is a foundation for your self-doubt and that imposter experience to stand on. So something that anybody that if you have a great imagination and like you are good at like creating things and seeing the out there thing, all I want you to do is practice that more and apply it to your business. If you are someone that's like, I haven't played or like done anything with my imagination since like middle school, what are you talking about? I want you to start with the words, it's possible. In the words of Les Brown, when you start having, because no matter what, they're always going to happen, whether you pay attention to them or not. Right now, you're probably just knocking it back like, yeah, girl, whatever. That's not, we're not going to think about that right now. I want you to start saying it's possible when those little thoughts pop up. When that little idea pops up, like, damn, it would be really cool to speak on that stage. It's possible. Before we even go to like, girl, that's not even, you're too old for that. You're too this for that. You got kid. Nope, it's possible. Because why not? It's possible. And just start there. I'm not asking you to believe it and have all the conviction. Thoughts still might go, but practicing the mantra in that moment, it's possible, may open your brain up to, okay, so if it's possible, then maybe it's taking this step. Maybe it's posting this piece of content. Maybe I should reach out to this person. It allows your brain to come up with ideas and to reach for things that you wouldn't reach for because you said, nah, can't do that. Okay. So the next time, whether it's, I'm going to quit my job in like 6 months. Oh, you can't. It's possible. Why not? I'm going to make 6 figures this month. It's possible. I want you to start with it's possible because your job as an entrepreneur is to create, and so much of creating is building what you don't see, right? And I'll also tie it into just a really quick caveat. I can't help myself is your imagination is also tied to your intuition, right? The reason children are seen as being as so intuitive is because they're tied to their imagination and their brain in a way where anything is possible. So they can see all these possibilities and find and pick and guide themselves towards what is truth, right? And if you study any successful person, which I've studied a lot of them in several different industries, 99% of them will tell you that there's a level of intuition and faith that comes in being successful as an entrepreneur. And that imagination, that ability to hold something in your mind that you don't see yet, so much so that it creates this intuitive gut instinct in your belly, that is powerful, and that is a guiding force. And that's also why they tell you to remember your why, because that emotional tie is also something that activates your intuition and allows you to find those instinctual, inspired actions. All right. Ooh, this is my favorite. So I definitely would recommend taking a screenshot of this. I will happily drop this inside of Mighty Networks, like just this slide so you can download. These are affirmations and mantras that you can use when it comes to self-doubt or the imposter experience. And really quickly, because I didn't know until recently, so in case anyone else didn't know, affirmations and mantras, the difference between them. Affirmations, you are affirming something to yourself. I am this, I can do this, I blah, 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 blah. Mantras are statements of truth that you are you are practicing believing in, okay? Because faith and belief is a muscle, you guys. It's not a decision. It's not one day, oh, I have faith and I believe this. Confidence is not a decision. It is not a choice. It is a practice, right? It is a muscle that you build over time. And mantras, these statements that you continuously say to yourself and allow them to be true, are ways to practice that belief, practice that faith muscle. So, affirmations are great to use in the moment when you are experiencing self doubt in a moment, when you're experiencing the imposter experience in a moment. Affirmations are great to go to. However, I am a big proponent and a big advocate for getting ahead of things. So instead of waiting for the moment to hit you where you know self doubt is going to come, practice mantras and meditations and different types of like mindset development type of things before the moment hits, right? That's why morning routines are really important to people and why successful people tell you about them all the time. I remember a few years ago, I was like, a morning routine, like who cares how I wake up? I don't have time for that. Like I wake up and I got to get to work. But here's the reality. Anything that you're trying to change in your life, anything that you're trying to build in your life is all about breaking a pattern. And breaking a pattern is nothing more than creating a new one. And the best way to create new patterns is to start at the beginning of the day before you've gotten rolling into all the rest of your patterns, right? When you start at the beginning of the day, you're at the top of the hill and you can kind of control the direction that you're going. If you get up and you just start rolling down the same hill and then you randomly decide you want to turn left, imagine rolling down a hill or like a ball rolling down a hill and you're supposed to turn it that way with no moment. Like, how are you going to turn it that way? It's going to be way harder than if you just started at the top of the day and guided the direction, okay? So affirmations are great in the morning, in the moment. Mantras, meditations, and affirmations, anything really, are great for getting ahead of it. So affirmations: I am capable of learning new things. I trust myself to make good decisions. I can be imperfect and effective / successful. I can be imperfect. I can be imperfect and effective. I hope that was a good example of it because I feel like that was effective. I am more than my doubts. I have the opportunity. That means I'm ready. Okay, so those are a few of my favorite affirmations. You can also literally just like Google affirmations for self-doubt or whatever and pull the ones that resonate with you if these don't resonate with you. And you can also write your own affirmations. Like they don't have to come ready-made. You can make it up. So for some people, I'm a badass bitch. That could be your affirmation for the moments of self-doubt. Love that for you. Sometimes it's mine. Okay, mantras. Remember why you started. Always remember why you started. And remember, guys, these are mantras, just truths for you to have in your body, for you to soak into your brain. Remember, I told you at the beginning, your brain is a muscle. And by doing these things, we're training that muscle to move to a new beat, I guess. Remember why you started. Imperfection is beautiful. When in doubt, go for it anyway. Learning from a mistake beats struggling with regret. Learning from a mistake beats struggling with regret. Everything I touch turns to gold. Love it. Everything I touch turns to gold. Oh, I went backwards on accident. All right. So, next thing in your toolkit. So, number 1 in your toolkit was affirmations and mantras, right? Number 1 in your toolkit was your imagination. And I also want to touch back on this really quick. Making space for your imagination outside of your business can also bring so much creativity and fresh energy to your business. So for any of you that are like me and you are a reforming or reformed workaholic, or maybe you just came into the realization that I need to become a reforming workaholic, picking up a hobby that you used to love, anything from childhood, whether you loved painting, you loved going outside, you loved reading books, whatever it is, picking up that thing that you love again and make it, even if it's 10 minutes a day and that's all that you have. Again, we are retraining that muscle inside that is your brain to strive for joy. So if we come back to those things that we love and we have those 5-10 minutes and we soak in it, our brain is going to yearn for that more, and it's going to become part of that muscle, and you'll find yourself creating more space for it, whether it's within your business, outside of your business, with your family, with your own time, whatever the case may be. So it's all about training your brain to gravitate towards the things that bring you joy, to gravitate towards the things that energize you, and to allow it to be creative and expansive in imagination, and anything is possible. The second thing in your emotional toolkit was affirmations and mantras. Affirmations are great to use in the moment. Mantras and honestly anything else, meditation, morning routines, things like that are great to use to get ahead of it, so you aren't trying to stop the hill, stop yourself while you're already rolling down the hill. Now, next part of your toolkit, and I know this might seem cliche because everyone's like, get out of your comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone. But I want to tell you why, because I feel like a lot of people tell us to get out of our comfort zone, but they don't tell us why. Getting out of your comfort zone is a top tier way to build trust with yourself. You have to look at yourself as you're in a relationship with yourself, right? And when you get out of your comfort zone and you do things that you're not super comfortable with in the moment, you are teaching yourself that you can trust you. You can trust yourself in new spaces to figure it out. You can trust yourself to know what spaces are safe for you to figure it out and where you maybe don't need to go try and figure it out. It's about being able to trust, because again, that intuition, that gut instinct is a huge part of your success in your entrepreneur journey. Getting out of your comfort zone, and it can be with little things, guys. I remember when I was in when I first started a network marketing company a few years ago. I think it was John Maxwell who spoke to us. It could have been somebody else. We had a lot of great speakers about that time. But one of the things that they practice in the very beginning, because they used to be really shy, is having 5-minute conversation or 5-second conversations with strangers while they were walking out in the world. They would have a 5-second conversation, whether it was a compliment. Now, if you're someone that like talks to everybody, obviously that's within your comfort zone, so this doesn't count for you. And I'm also saying that to me. But for somebody that doesn't, like, maybe that's uncomfortable for you, speaking to strangers. 5 seconds, compliment someone's nails, say hi, tell them that their hair looks great, ask them where they got their shoes, whatever it is. But those 5-second conversations teach you, one, I can trust myself, and two, my thought and my idea of how big and scary it is really like way bigger than it actually is. The experience is not that scary. It's not. Our minds have a way of making things grandiose because, again, it's trying to protect us because it thinks we need to stay in this pattern. But the reality of the experience is it's not that deep. So allowing yourself to have those little moments when you get uncomfortable, maybe it's posting that story when you don't have makeup on, or showing the dishes, or just posting a story in general because it's uncomfortable for you to do so, whatever it is, or making that video for your ad. Taking that little step of being uncomfortable and remembering your mantras of I don't have to be perfect to be effective and imperfection is beautiful allows you to build trust with yourself, so you can see how far you can really go, because the reality is none of us know everything that we're capable of. And the only way to get to know the things that we're capable of is to trust ourselves enough to try, essentially. Bravery, yes. This trust in getting out of your comfort zone, it allows you to see how powerful you are and give you ammo against imposter thoughts. So something that I practice whenever self-doubt or imposter experience comes up is I go to the facts. I get logical. I'm like, okay, so for example, I'm going to put myself out there. For this call, I was literally an hour before this. It was all types of self-doubt, imposter. I don't know if I should be here. I don't have the qualifications to do this. These people don't, blah, 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 right? I had to sit back and look at the facts and ask myself, okay, one, have I done this before? I actually have done this before. Okay, great. Even if I hadn't done it before, am I capable of doing new things? And then number two, do I have any sort of factual proof that can tell me that this is going to be a bad situation and I'm absolutely going to bomb it? Well, no. I don't have any proof for that. And just kind of going through those logical steps of getting to the facts of my emotional reaction to having self-doubt or being scared of something, you guys, because at the end of the day, it really is just being scared for a moment. And we go into this like childlike defensive mode of, oh my gosh, I need to protect myself. No, there's all these things. Like, it's okay. We just got scared for a second, and when in doubt, do it anyway. So practicing getting uncomfortable, and not just in your business, guys. This can be in day-to-day life, in little practices. Like I said, those 5-second conversations, or waking up a little bit earlier and doing something that you're uncomfortable with, whatever it is. All right, the next one in your toolkit is going to be habit stacking. So, one thing that I see when it comes to like making changes or progressing in business, right, is thinking that I used to work with a TV host who used to say, feel the fear and do it anyway. I love that. Feel so when in doubt, do it anyway. Feel the fear, do it anyway. Like Nike said, just do it. Um, so third, fourth, not sure what number we are. The next thing in your emotional toolkit is going to be called habit stacking. So when I talk about habit stacking, one thing that I see is people decide that they're going to make a change, and especially with like New Year's resolutions and stuff. I'm going to start waking up an hour and a half earlier. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to drink green smoothie. I'm going to do all, they try to do a million things at once. And when they have that one day, whether it's the fourth day, the fourth month, the fourth week, whatever it is, where they don't do all of those a million things, now all of a sudden they're a failure and they're incapable of change. And that's really not how change works. Change is not linear, change is progressive. And quite honestly, change is inconsistent. While you are changing and building a new habit, you are going to have moments of inconsistency. And if you're okay with that from the beginning, you're going to bounce back a lot faster, because the reason that it takes us so long to bounce back after we have a mess up, a mistake, an inconsistent moment is because we've decided and we have the perspective that that means we can't do it. That means we failed. And it doesn't. That just means we reverted to an old habit, an old pattern for a moment in the midst of us learning a new one. For anyone that's ever, played an instrument and you're used to playing one song all the time and then you're switching to a new song, you may revert back to that old song, right? Or it's just like riding a bike. If you haven't ridden a bike in 10 years, but you know how to ride a bike, if you get back on a bike, you're going to know how to ride it. So if you're creating a new habit and an old trigger comes to you and it catches you too fast and you're unaware and you fall into an old pattern, you just got back on the bike. You can get off it and start walking again, or get on your Peloton or your treadmill or whatever change we're making, okay? So when it comes to habit stacking, number one thing is, instead of trying to break old habits or old patterns, focus on creating new ones, okay? Because when we focus on, I want to stop doing this, if I tell you not to think about an elephant, you're gonna think about an elephant, right? When we focus on not doing something, one, it's not attractive. Like, it doesn't make it, it's like telling a kid that hates veggies to eat broccoli. Like, we don't want to do it. And we don't have anything to fill that space, right? There's a space there and it's supposed to be filled, and when you take that habit out, it needs something else in it, and if you don't have something else there, it's going to default to the old habit. So it's much simpler to just focus on replacing the habit, building a new habit. So for example, if you have a bad habit of sleeping in, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to stop sleeping in, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., give yourself something to do or something to look forward to. Instead of sleeping in, I'm going to replace that with waking up and reading my favorite book, because that's what I love to do. Waking up and watching my favorite show, if that's what you want, whatever. Replace it with a habit that is attractive, but also, conducive and productive and effective to who you're becoming. The second thing is to remember that the goal isn't to feel better. I heard this recently and it really, really helped me with my consistency. Is a lot of us, we start habits and we start doing things, or we start showing up on social media consistently, or we start doing this in our business, or we start drinking the green smoothies or drinking water to feel better, right? And then once we start feeling better, we kind of fall back and we're like, oh, okay, I feel better, I'm good now. And then we lose the habit again. So the goal of your habit, or the goal of any practice that you're putting in place, is not to feel better. All right. It's to get to a point where you consistently feel good. So feeling better isn't really a factor, because I consistently have these practices and this self-discipline and this self-care to generally feel good throughout my life. Right. And then the last, I talked about this already, habit stacking will most likely be inconsistent. Keep trying anyway. Okay. You're going to have, 6 days where you do great and a day where you don't. On day 8, get back up, do it again. It doesn't mean you're back at day 1. It just means you're at day 8, right? It's kind of like stretching. If I stretch for 3 weeks straight and then I stop stretching for a week, I'm not going to be back where I started at the top of the 3-week mark. I might be, where I was at week 2, and then I can just keep going and stack and stack and stack. But if I stretch for 3 weeks and then I fall off for a week and decide that I failed and then just keep falling off for however many more weeks, I'm definitely starting back at 0 whenever it is that I do start. Right? So the faster you hop back up by understanding it's going to be inconsistent, the better. Huge. Your habits follow your identity. This probably should have been before the last slide, but it's okay. Understanding that the way you view yourself is going to build your habits. So a great psychology example of this, they did a study about people, I think, that were trying to quit cigarettes, right? And there were people, they found that the people that were offered cigarettes when they were trying to quit that said, no, I don't want one, versus the people that said, oh no, I'm not a smoker, right? Even though they had maybe just quit smoking an hour ago or a week ago or whatever, the people that said, oh no, I don't want one, were more likely to revert back to smoking than the people that refused it and said, I'm not a smoker, because your habits follow your identity. The people that said, I don't want one, were trying to quit, but their identity was, I'm still a smoker. The person that had just, put it down an hour ago and decided, I'm not a smoker anymore, their habits tended to follow the way that they were identifying themselves. So this comes back to your affirmations and your mantras. Your habits are going to follow the way that you view yourself. So if you think that you're inconsistent, your habits are going to follow that inconsistency. But if you start practicing affirmations and mantras of consistency, and you allow yourself to habit stack no matter how inconsistent you are with it, your habits will begin to follow your identity. Creating better habits as an entrepreneur starts with the way you view yourself as a business owner and the identity you've given your business. So choose wisely. Last but not least is goal setting, okay? So when it comes to self-doubt and imposter experience, a huge thing that helps is setting goals, okay? First thing that you want to do with setting your goals is make them attractive, all right? Do not go out here setting a goal that you think you're supposed to achieve, but you don't actually care about, okay? Everyone is running around yes, make 5 figures a month, make 6 figures a month, I need to make 50K, da, da. If that's not attractive for you, don't go after that just because that's what you're supposed to do as a successful entrepreneur, right? Set a goal that's attractive to you. If that goal is, one of my goals personally is, and this sounds pretty off the wall to most people, but my goal is to take 3 months off a year for the rest of my life. November through January, I think that's actually 4 months. November through January, y'all will not see me. It's cold, it's yucky. I'm going to go sit on an island somewhere and I'll see y'all when I get back. All right. That's an attractive goal for me. Whatever goal is attractive to you, you need to make that goal attractive. And the next thing you want to do is make it emotional. All right. Don't just make it. So even if your goal is 6 figures a month, don't just oh, I want to make 6 figures a month. What's the emotional tie to that 6 figures? Okay. So for me, one of my goals is making 6 figures a month, but the emotional tie to that is I get to take my girlfriend and show her my home country. My family's from Trinidad. I would actually get to take her to that island on a regular basis. We could move there if we wanted to. There is my mom. She's obsessed with giraffes and she gave her entire life for me, right? I want to take her to this giraffe manor in Kenya where she can feed giraffes from her hotel room in the morning. That's why I want to make 6 figures a month. Okay. So on those days when I have that imposter experience and I have that self-doubt, my goal and my emotions, it's not confidence, isn't about not having self-doubt. It's about being so emotionally driven that the self-doubt doesn't matter. All right. If I have to choose between picking up this phone and pitching a sales call and 6 figures in the future to be able to take my mom to the Giraffe Manor, best believe, voice shaking and everything, I'm going to pick up this phone and make that, because it's attractive. It's emotional. And maybe for you, I know a lot of you guys have kids. Maybe that's, if it's a college fund for them, if it's taking them somewhere for a birthday, if it's a retirement home, make it attractive, make it emotional. All right. And then third, you want to celebrate the small wins along the way. All right. This entire process is about rewiring our brains. when we celebrate the small wins, which is, I know you guys are used to that. Every other week you get on here and you drop your wins and you share your wins. And whether you are celebrating your own wins or someone else's, right? When we practice celebrating those wins along the way, we're rewiring our brain to be attracted to success, to find safety in that pattern of reaching goals, of doing what we said we would do, right? And that rewiring allows us to do that bigger and bigger and more because it's a muscle that's strengthening and growing itself, right? And then the fourth one, take this if it resonates, leave it if it doesn't, okay? This one does not resonate with everyone, but for me personally, I make losing painful. All right. I don't just sit back and like, oh, I didn't hit my goals. When. No, like that I sit and look at, okay, so you didn't hit your goal. This means we don't get to do this right now. We don't get to do this next. This is what this means. This is how this is happening. I sit down and I sit with that because I want to wire my brain to be like, no, we don't want to do that anymore. We like it better going this way. Right? And that doesn't mean that I'm always going to win 110% every single time. That just means that I am constantly allowing myself to move towards that success line, to move towards that winning without my own. There's enough other stuff that's going to get in my way. I'm not going to be the one that's in my way too. Right? So make it attractive, make it emotional, celebrate the small wins, and if it resonates, make losing painful. Practice channeling healthy self-doubt into positive motivation. That's what all of this comes down to, okay? Once we understand that it's normal, once we understand that it's a rites of passage, once we, can practice being aware of it, our next step is channeling that self-doubt into positive motivation. Whatever that means for you, okay? Whatever that next step of success, whatever that next step of motivation is. And I also want to give a caveat here. I would say positive motivation or positive drive. And the reason I say that is because motivation 90% of the time is external. There's something outside of you that's like, okay, I'm running towards this. It's like a rat running towards cheese, okay? But drive is internal. It's that thing that gets you up when you don't see the cheese, when there's nothing, you don't see the sales, you're not sure. It's that thing that gets you up. So that's why the goals, the habits, the having the vision, the having your why is so important, so that on the days where there is no external motivation, there's still an internal drive for you to go after. To kind of get to a point where we're closing it out, it's not about who or where you are now, but it's about how you view yourself. All right. It has nothing to, I don't care about today's reality. I don't care about the New Year's resolutions that, failed. I don't care about what business issues we had yesterday. I don't care about arguments with the kids or the partner. Nothing about the reality of today is what is really driving your success. What is driving your success is the way that you are choosing to view yourself in spite of the reality that is right in front of you. I heard this on TikTok the other day. The success recipe is, number one, knowing you have something to offer, which none of you would be here inside of this ads program if you didn't know you have something to offer, mixed with a constant drive to improve, aka imposter syndrome, self-doubt, or the imposter experience, plus a touch of childlike imagination, just so you are able to view where it is that you're going and who it is that you're becoming. Nothing more, nothing less. And you know what? Actually, before we get into questions and comments, I forgot one major thing that is actually very, very important. So one thing I also want you guys to understand is that, first and foremost, imposter syndrome, created in the psychological world, was created from a study that was done back in like the 70s, 80s, something like that, solely on white women working that had just been allowed to start working in corporate between the ages of like 20 and 40. So the idea of imposter syndrome and this idea of self-doubt was built on the theory of, I hate to be like this way, but cis white males in the workforce and how they worked and how they viewed the world. And that's why you get the, oh, well, you're being aggressive as a woman or whatever. So part of imposter syndrome is not just your own experience and your own, triggers or trauma. Part of it is also the society that we live in, especially for women and people of color, because the society that we live in celebrates a very rigid idea of success and the path to it. And breaking free from that is a part and a process. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that, because it it's not just you. You didn't get this self-doubt and the imposter experience on your own. It was cultivated, it was created, it was crafted. But I wanted to spend more of today focusing on how to move forward from it than drudging up the fact that, it was put on us without a lot of our awareness for some of us. This was awesome. Thanks for being transparent with your own self-doubt and these gems and how to overcome them. Thank you, Natasha. You are so welcome. Okay. I'm going to close out with just a few things that I have just for you guys. Just a fun little fact in the spirit of transparency. So one of my biggest self-doubt and insecurity struggles in my entrepreneurship journey was whether or not I had the qualifications or the validation to truly be a mindset coach or a mindset speaker, or truly to be a space of empowerment for the collective mindset of entrepreneurs. And my heart for that is because I truly do. I've never lost my childlike imagination, and one thing that I've always imagined is this utopia type of world where if we all worked and did the things that we absolutely loved in this life, then life as we know it would be totally different. There would be so much more joy, so much more peace, so much more freedom. And I've spent the last 8 years figuring out what are the best ways for me to contribute to that when it comes to the entrepreneurship world, and how can I help entrepreneurs and anyone out in the world do what it is that they love to do. And I always came back to this mindset work, but I always defaulted to helping people with their systems and their organization and their marketing and their branding, because I have degrees for that stuff. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology. I have a master's in business with a concentration in entrepreneurship. So all of that felt validated. But when it came to the mindset stuff, it was like, I'm not qualified to do that. What if I mess it out? What if they don't get it right? Did all these questions. So all of that to say, coming into this space, what you just saw was genuinely an act of, when in doubt, act anyway, despite imposter syndrome, show up anyway. So if you saw any confidence in me, know that when you show up and you experience doubt, people are seeing the same confidence in you that you just saw in me. And I am also excited to share with you guys that I am chucking, the insecurity and the imposter syndrome at the door, and I'm fully stepping into this mindset space. Oh, look at all the love. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. I love this. Gonna cry. Yes. It's the community for me. As I close out, I just want to take a moment to thank Lorell, thank the Social Sales Lab. This is such an amazing community that you guys have here, and I am grateful that she trusted me enough to come speak to you guys and share with you guys, because I know how much she loves you guys and how protective she is of all of you. And I can see why you guys have so much love and so much support for each other, and you're so interactive, which I absolutely loved. Thank you for interacting with me. Thank you for sharing your vulnerable moments with me as well, and just being a safe space for me to share so that we could all grow. The links that I dropped in the chat will also be dropped with the replay inside of Mighty Network. So if you missed it here, you can grab it there. And I look forward to chatting with you guys some more. I'm definitely going to be bringing some more mindset calls to you guys. So if there are any topics that you are personally struggling with, or that you just feel like this would be great, whether it's, how to approach sales conversations, how to overcome burnout, how to deal with limiting beliefs, whatever it is. Oh, okay. Whatever it is, drop it in the comments, or you can even email us at the company email, and we are happy to incorporate that. So much love, so much light. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah!